We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Today is my day.
Hi, and welcome to Talk Up Your Biz. I'm Jean-Noel Bassior, and I'm with my co-host, Susan Levin.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I'm Susan Levin.
Yeah. And we have a fabulous show for you today. In our second segment, we have Lina Marquez with us, and she composed the bumper music for this show, the Seed Song, which you'll hear more of as we go out to the break and come in again. And she's a fabulous composer and musician, and she creates original music that can really inspire loyalty to your product or service, or just kind of give people a feeling of who you are. So we're going to be talking with her next segment. But right now...
Yeah, and I thank you. And I also want to say our guest, Marianne Emma Jeff, who we have posted as being here, is ill, so she'll be with us at another time. And Jean-Noel and I will be talking to you about...
various things. I mean, one of them might be...
second segment.
One of them might be, you mean my book?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my book.
Yeah, your book.
But to fit it into the format of this show, Talk Up Your Biz, what we're really going to talk about is what I did to promote my book when it first came out. So that's really what,
Right, and how to take your message to the media. And what Jean-Noel did as an example, because that's really important if you're speaking and you're an author and you need to get out to the media. So that's what we're going to do in our second segment or third segment.
Well, actually, I think that's going to be the
last segment.
Yeah, the last segment.
Okay, that's what it is. So we've been really busy at the book beat. That's what's on my mind. We've been very busy at speaker services and preparing the conversations for today, for Talk Up Your Biz, and for the book beat, and talking to different people to be guest experts on the show. We're really excited that we've lined up some really interesting people. But today, I wanted to talk about 10 tips for incredibly successful public speaking. And this comes to us from a post from David Meerman Scott. And he's a marketing strategist, keynote speaker, and best-selling author of 8 books, including The New Rules of Marketing and PR. And I have that book, and it's excellent. It came out about a year or two ago, and I think he has another book coming out. But I found this this post, and I thought it was really good observations that he makes. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people go out to speak, and then they just, shoot from the hip. And they think that they can command the audience and they know what they're doing. And he's saying, make the most of the opportunity. So his first tip is, take it seriously. He says, if 200 people are in a room and you speak for a half hour, you are talking up 100 hours of people's time. He says, I see many speakers wing it. And that's what I was talking about, shooting from the hip. And it makes me feel sorry for the audience. Don't look bad. And that means that if you're not prepared to go out to speak, get yourself a coach. Get somebody who will help you to speak about what is important and how you can focus and give them the best. That's one of the things that Jean-Noel and I do in our coaching together. We get people focused. And we help them to stay on time. And that's another thing that he talks about. He says, make sure you don't go over your time. I know that people go over their time, and it really is upsetting. It happened at the last conference that we were at Ursula's conference. Our friend Mark Romero went over time. No, the person in front of Mark Romero went over time. And he wasn't given any more time, so he had to squash his talk to get it smaller, to get everything in.
So Mark had to squash his talk.
Yeah, and he was upset about it because you don't get the extra time. So please be aware of the time. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other things that he talks about?
One of my favorite ones from David Meerman Scott here is, he says, if someone says, let me tell you about my company, what's your reaction? But if somebody says, let me tell you a story,
Yeah.
do you have a better reaction? And I like that because it's really not, and this it's not about your product or service or sometimes even your book or film that you're really speaking about. In fact, on this show, when we call it Talk Up Your Biz, in essence, when you go out and speak, it's really about what's in it for the audience. That's really the essence of your message and what you're trying to get out there. So you may have written a great book that can help people, and that's really what they're listening for. So it's sort of like changing your entire approach to view it from that angle. So I like that a lot. And the other thing I like is when he says he talks about traveling all over the world and speaking at conferences and how many bad speakers he hears. And he goes into that. But he says that education, entertainment, and motivation are the three things that you as a speaker have to deliver.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I like it when he talks about, know the organizer's goal. And a lot of speakers don't ask questions. They just assume that they're going to go in with their I'd like to say canned talk, and they don't know who the group is. And you need to interview the person who's hiring you and ask them questions. Who's in the audience? What are their goals? What's going on behind the scenes? I've created a very simple form called a speaker query form that I provide for my speakers, and it's in my workbook called Market Yourself as a Speaker. But when you get more professional, there's something else that you want on your meeting planner page. And you know what that is? Do you remember?
It's a test.
Yeah, it's a test. If you don't, that's okay. A pre-program questionnaire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's one of the things that we share with people, that they should have a link on their website for a pre-program question for meeting planners. Have all the information there that they need, so that you're not getting calls and they're saying, tell me about this, tell me about that, what's this talk about? You have all your information. There could be 10 or 12 items, including your JPEG, so you don't have to keep cutting and pasting. What a concept these days.
And a lot of this takes place after you get the meeting planner to go to your website. So, of course, one of the things that we often coach people in is how to be proactive. In other words, a lot of speakers I know come to you, Susan, and say, are you a bureau? Should I join a bureau? Which you don't have to do if you're on the web as a speaker, whether you're with Speaker Services or listed somewhere else. You still can be proactive, and you can start making phone calls and opening a dialogue with meeting planners. So in a way, sometimes the ball is in your court first. So, you go after them, tell them what you speak about and how you can solve their problems. Then they may check out your website. And then when they come, then they can fill out some of these forms, right?
It goes both ways.
Yeah,
it goes both ways. But a disclaimer here, a word of caution, because we say this all the time. And people say, well, gee, I reached out to an event coordinator and they said they were the decision maker, and I left a message, but I never got a call back. Why does that happen?
Because they left a message without saying what problem they could solve for the organization. There's no real reason to call them back.
Right.
It's not like, hi, I'm a speaker and best-selling author, and I'd really like to speak for your group. Please give me a call. That's not going to work.
Yeah, so what's a good tip for people to be able to put together, one or two sentences that would tie into the pain of what the organization or the company needs?
Well, I love our client that we had who was a therapist and specialized in relaxation. And she was back east, and she wanted to speak to spas and hotels. And so one of the things that she started doing as we coached her was she started making it clear that if she came and spoke to the group, the spa guests would want to come back for another visit. So if she left a voicemail, it could be something like, hi, I'm Jane so-and-so, and I'm a therapist who can speak to your group and make them want to come back, for their next visit, something like that. Now, if you were a meeting planner, would you call that person back?
Yeah, it's definitely going to bring more business. So that's really a great tip. And this is what we help people with also. Another tip is to get there early. A lot of people fly in at the last minute and they don't talk to the people that are in the audience or hanging around. And that's where you get your best stories from, when you get there early and you find out what's going on behind the scenes, I like to say. And you might even say something like, when met Jean-Noel in the lobby as I was coming in and she was coming to this meeting, I asked her what her greatest challenge was. And she shared with me.
That gives you a great story to open with, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
it endears you to the meeting planner, the decision maker, and to the audience. It really shows that you care and that you're flexible and that you're not coming in with the can talk again.
Well, also, you want to be familiar with the stage and with the sound, do a sound check.
Yeah.
And of course, that does remind me of that Tony Bennett story, which I think I've told before.
Oh,
Where
that's okay.
he
Tell
was,
it again.
he got there early. This is about getting there early. So Tony Bennett, when I interviewed him, he told me that at his first gig at the Palladium in London, he was very, very scared. But he got there, he was early, he was on stage, and he peeked through the curtain, and he saw this one guy who had come into the audience early. He was sitting there alone. And Tony was really nervous, he told me, but he said he looked at that guy, and the guy didn't look very happy. And he thought to himself, well, maybe he's going through a divorce, or maybe he's got a child who's sick, or maybe he just lost his job. You know, something is really, really bothering this guy. But maybe when I sing, I can lift his spirits for this concert. I can make things better. And he said that his nervousness left at that moment.
That's beautiful. That's a really beautiful story. I really like that. I feel the same way about the music that Lina Marquez created for our show, The Seed, that you hear coming in and out. And today we're so happy to have her with us to talk about where that came from and how she created that. I wanted to also mention today we had some kudos this week. One of our speakers, Kristen McDonald, who is legally blind, spoke in Texas, and we coached her through the whole process, and she got paid for it, and she was very nervous about it, and they had her do a talk and a breakout session, a workshop, which she hadn't done before, and she prepared a workbook and sold that in advance. She's got a fabulous family. One of her sisters, you know this too, another sister and a brother who really help her. She's a former TV person, and we're going to have her on the show later on. But she called me and left me this beautiful message saying that everything went so perfectly. It couldn't have been better. And she traveled by herself, mind you,
Amazing,
and she's blind. And she said they loved her talk. She got lots of interest. Many people came up to her and said, here's my card. We'd like you to speak for us. And I had helped her to put together, a rating form in a way that she could get people to, speak with her so she could speak with them again. And she said doing the workshop really gave her the confidence that she could do more of this. And she was so grateful. And that came through speaker services.
Yes. So awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And then, and then Jim Michael, thank you. Applause. And then Jim Michael, who was on our show last week, sent us a beautiful note. And we want to share that he was incredibly nervous when we spoke with him, and we tried to calm him down, and he was just sweating, before the show. And he wrote, he did such a stellar job. If you didn't see the show, look for the 513 show of Talk Up Your Biz. He was just really interesting, and it gave him an enormous amount of confidence. That's what he wrote. And as a result of being on the show, somebody called him, not from being on the show, but coincidentally, and he got another speaking gig through us.
Great.
Yeah, so he was really, really delighted.
Yeah. So, and you may be nervous when you start speaking. I mean, a lot of times we are. And Jim's a great example of somebody who's just, doing it anyway and getting better and better, and more comfortable.
Right. So people do get confidence, and we just say, just do it or just get coached. That's what we say. So,
really
we have one other thing I wanted to talk about in the remaining time that we have. I had another really interesting post by a man named Mike Brown
Yeah, this is really
in
good.
Brain Zooming.
Mhm.
And this was October 2012, and it was called Keynote Presenter Advice. Don't do these things. And he's talking about sitting in the audience.
Well, I love
right?
his, yeah, he's got a great lead. And
Yeah.
he says, "Hi, it's me, sitting in the darkened back row for your opening keynote presentation." And then he goes on to be a little bit sarcastic because what he's really doing is pointing out sort of the flaws in a speaker who really annoyed him. And this guy opened by, talking about his credentials and, how great he was. And he's going like, "I'm sure the conference organizers picked you because of your impressive background and career history." And he goes on and on. But obviously he's pointing out the things this guy does wrong, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So he's, and that's great because, there is always somebody there who's looking at you and making these critiques. And, that thing about having all the initials at the end, Jean-Noel's been writing the copy for Speaker Services or rewriting it for many, many years. And people will send us their copy with initials that we don't even know what they mean. And, to them, they're really important. But, we don't know. And you would always say.
The thing that really bugs me
Yeah.
is when they put initials before their name, like J,
Oh,
Tom.
really?
Well, I think it's going a little bit overboard. That's just my own little personal thing, and I know it's great in the academic world, but, think about it. You got initials before your
Well,
name.
we get
after your name.
XYZ, comma, PMS,
Yeah.
something like that.
We don't know what it is.
And we don't know what it is.
But the biggest tip that Mike says here is do us all a favor and get us involved in your keynote presentation. And he goes like, even a little bit, maybe ask for questions like you were saying earlier, or maybe ask us a question, meaning ask the audience a question. So that's great advice.
And a couple other things he points out is that tell us what you're going to be speaking about right up front. And that should be in your introduction. That should be the last line. Make sure you write your own introduction and bring it with you, please, and send it ahead. So, for example, you have 5 or 6 sentences about who you are and what you're offering. And then today, so-and-so will be speaking about speak your way to more business. Please help me welcome. And then mention it again. And then at the end, tell us what you spoke about. It's always about reviewing. And he says, use a microphone. That's another thing. Some people think that they have a fabulous voice and everybody's going to hear them, but they don't. And that could ruin it. Let's see what else he says. Oh, yeah, you said spend less time on your credentials.
Right.
And he says, don't turn the lights off, to do your presentation in the dark. That makes me laugh. And he says, darkness may make your videos pop, but you made yourself invisible to the audience. Now, that's important,
Right.
because we want to see who that person is.
Right.
Yeah. And what else? Let's see. We have a couple
Well,
more
it was
moments.
just,
Yeah.
I think we're about ready to go to break now.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, we are going to go to break. I didn't hear the music. And we're listening to the music of The Seed from Lina Marquez. And when we come back, we're going to talk with Lina Marquez, and she creates original music that inspires customer loyalty to your product, service, book, TV show, or your brand. So we'll be back with you at LA Talk Live in 2 minutes, and you've been listening to Talk Up Your Biz.
To build a world closer to heaven. Planting a seed in my soul. I'm watching it grow. If you believe, we will make it together. Planting a seed in my soul. Our beauty will show.
you ready to enjoy the Maui lifestyle? You can have it all by owning real estate on the Paradise Island of Maui. Dennis Rush, a 22-year Maui resident and real estate broker, brings his wealth of experience and market knowledge to add value to your Maui real estate understanding, providing a level of service as unique and exceptional as the island of Maui itself. The magical island of Maui was voted the most exclusive resort island in the world by Condé Nast Traveler, and keep in mind, Maui is only a simple, non-stop flight away. Hawaii Business Magazine Top 100 Realtors awarded Dennis Rush the 2011 fourth top realtor on the island of Maui. Go to www.dennisrush.com to view all of the amazing properties currently available in the Maui MLS system. Whatever your needs or desires, Dennis Rush will provide a private consultation for any Maui properties your heart desires. You will be in good hands. Once again, go to www.dennisrush.com. That's www.dennisrush.com. Contact Dennis today to start your Maui lifestyle now. Dennis Rush, proud sponsors of the Dawn Christie Show and LA Talk Live.
Hi, this is Susan Levin, owner and founder of Speaker Services, inviting you to join me and co-host Jean-Noel Bassior on Monday evenings, 5 p.m. Pacific, for our new show, Talk Up Your Business, Speak Your Way to More Profits. We'll be talking to you about how to use your expertise to grow your business or service through speaking. Our expert speakers and author guests will share their stories and success secrets with you. Don't forget to tune in to Talk Up Your Business Mondays at 5 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Today is my day.
Welcome back. You're here with LA Talk Live and Talk Up Your Biz, Susan Levin and Jean-Noel Bassior. And our very, very special guest, we're very excited to have Lina Marquez with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Jean-Noel.
You're welcome. Here's delayed applause, but you got it, honey. And Lina creates original music that inspires customer loyalty for your product, service, books, or film. And her clients include...
Well, I was thinking, can you turn up the music a little bit, Nez? Maybe we can hear a little bit of...
That's what I was hoping for, too.
Yeah. Let's hear a little bit of Lina's music
that's a good
here.
idea. And then let's tell who her clients include.
I'm taking a stand and making a difference. Ready to change the world that I see. 'Cause I have a dream. True love is evergreen. I know it's not too late. Gonna grow some love today.
listening. You're listening to music from Lina Marquez, who's right here in studio with us, really in the flesh. So, Lina, this is an amazing song called "The
Thank
Seed,"
you.
and I know you've worked for Disney Studios and for Andy Garcia, right? And
Yes.
other clients. But how did you happen to write this amazing song?
Well, I've come from a family of musicians, and so early on I was able to understand that of all the fine arts, it seemed that music was the most independent. In other words, you can't have dancers without music. I don't think any of us could imagine cinema having the impact that it does without music. I also noticed how music was being used as a delivery mechanism for every product, whether people were trying to establish loyalty to a candy or a clothing line or a sports franchise. Music is the most independent of all the arts. It stands alone. And when I understood that, I went beyond thinking of it as something that was ambient or transitory and thought of it as an energetic vehicle that really, more than anything, I think people would suffer with the absence of music in their lives.
Yeah, imagine a world without music.
Imagine a world without music.
Yeah.
And when I understood that, it was a crystallizing moment. And from that moment, I said, I'm going to attach sound to drivers of higher energy and higher meaning and see if music can be used to attach itself to the heart center and that place in us where, we're all really innocent children wanting to feel good.
Wow. Drivers of higher energy and higher meaning.
Sure.
Explain.
When you look at the way that society and certain artists, whether it's a politically motivated change such as Richie Havens, who was able to actually stop a war, or when you think of the great Egyptian singer Kulthum, who refused to sing until the situation in the Middle East was sorted out. That begins to illustrate the power of the artist to bring consciousness through their work. And not to say that I put myself in that category, but I certainly understand that there's an energetic mechanism. I would say most of us don't really know why. When we listen to a certain piece of music more than anything can bring us to tears or make us feel elated after we've had a rough day.
It's an emotional pull.
It is an emotional,
And-
energetic.
Right. And when we told you that we were starting the show, and I said we needed music and we were searching for it, you said to me, I have the perfect song for you. And it's The Seed. And it is unbelievable how it is so perfect for this show, because this show is about inspiring entrepreneurs and experts and speakers and authors to get out and speak about what they're passionate about, and it's The Seed. And I love it that you shared it with us, but tell us how you created the song and who you created it for.
I created the song The Seed for a book called The Seed, which came out in the year 2000. It was the first book to be featured in the windows of Bloomingdale's, New York.
By Lynn Franks. Right?
By Lynn Franks, correct. She is known as a PR guru, and she commissioned me to write this piece. The Seed was sustainable enterprise and entrepreneurial dynamics. So we're talking about starting a whole new phase of life, of trusting that if you plant the seed of your intention and you foster it by being really attentive to your own life, that seed must become, just as you drop an acorn in the ground, you trust, and you drop a kernel of corn in the ground, you can trust that seed is going to become what is at the heart of it. With human beings, I believe that our intention is like a seed, and when you plant it in good faith and you nurture it by remaining hopeful and positive, that sooner or later, that mighty oaks come from
acorns. And you wrap
acorns.
that all up into a song.
Yes, it's precisely what we were talking about earlier. I believe that music, because it does have that capacity to lull you, that it's a subliminal energizer. And there is a browbeating way to try to communicate with our brethren. You should do this, and well, this isn't right. And then there's another way, which is, okay, I'm dancing, I'm grooving, okay, and you're telling me that I have a seed that I can plant and I can make the world express something closer to heaven. So if all you want to do is dance and shake your booty, well, you can get it on that level. But if you want to stop and listen and say, wow, this is actually kind of universal truth with a disco backbeat, well, hey, that's. I mean, I'm hoping that everyone can latch onto something good.
And I know you have kind of a unique approach to life. You're kind of a free spirit. And so where I'm going with that is, and you can say as much about that as you want, but it seems like you are able to really see what someone needs. For example, if they do have a product or service, and kind of get to the essence of who they are and what they want to communicate. And I think it's because of the way you approach life. Am I on track here?
You are exactly on track.
I think we have an example here too of the queen bee, which is something that you created for a product for organic beeswax.
Yes, there is a product.
Here it comes. I'm hearing it.
And
fills your fantasies. I'm queen bee. You all know
and that's
me.
Lina singing.
I share my home, the honeycomb, with more than 40,000 drones. They swarm about me night and day, and here is what they say. Pour some honey on me.
Pour some honey on me.
Some honey,
I like it.
queen bee.
Use that beeswax.
Pour some honey on me. Yeah, I alone possess the secret to pollen to nectar, nectar to honey.
That's like
What product was that for?
it is an entire line from baby's diaper rash cream to lip product to a natural filtration for sun damage. As we probably all know, the bee, the pollen, and what is called royal jelly have immense healing properties. So I have a client who approached me wanting to have a song. Their logo is a female bee, the queen bee, and she's a superhero because the bees are struggling at this time, and they're the ones who pollinate all of the vegetation, all the fruits and vegetables that we enjoy. So this product line, which is in development, so I don't know that they've chosen the final name, but they are creating with a very talented CGI person. His name is Buck Vale, and if you have a moment, check him out. Buck Vale, he's worth looking at. His CGI is amazing. So it's a female queen bee superhero who's essentially saving us, and I went with it. You hear about I alone possess the secret, turning pollen to nectar and nectar to honey, sonny. I got no time for acting funny. The hive survives because of me, which is, there's a lot of biological information about the bees that I've put in there. She shares her home, the honeycomb, with more than 40,000 drones. As I did my research and development.
That's so fun. I like pour the honey.
Yeah, well, that is probably the most sensual part of the song,
Oh, that's
Susan.
why I liked it.
Pour some honey on me, queen bee.
You go, girl.
So, before you got here, Jean-Noel, we were talking about Lina making up a song on the spot for LA Talk Live, and she actually did. Would you share that?
Oh, I will sing a little bumper, and I'll just LA Talk Live, more than just talk.
Sounds sexy.
Oh, wow. So you got that now.
Now the queen bee that we heard a moment ago, that is called a rough draft.
Really?
So yes, that
sounds pretty finished to me.
Well, I hope I present work that leaves very little that the client has to add.
Mm.
They can see that I heard their instructions and I took what they are moving as a product and incorporated it on all levels of my writing. And it came from a scientific meets science pop. Oh, I think we just started a new genre here.
Oh,
Sci
science
pop.
pop.
Sci pop.
In the moment.
I wouldn't be surprised, Lina. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, I also know that you write screenplays, and all your screenplays are around music as well that you composed. And the beautiful stories that you've told me, the synopsis, very conscious, you know, no violence in them, the same as your songs, but then you can incorporate them. So I really like that. And I
Thank
know.
you.
And I know one other thing that you can do, because we talked about it, that you could create a signature song for a speaker and on the spot. Because one night when I was telling you about Carrie Flinton, one of our early speakers here, I told you a little bit about it and you made up a song on the spot. Now we're waiting for Carrie. Call. So tell people how they can get a hold of you. By the way, you have a new email address.
I do. I have a space just for music inquiries, and that is ROMURBAN music, ROM urban music at gmail.com.
Tell us what that means, Rom Urban.
Rom is the genus name of all gypsies. So Romany, that's a gypsy. A Rom is a gypsy. They're interchangeable. And urban,
right.
of course, means city. So urban gypsies making music. If you think about it, the gypsy culture is the pollinator of music.
That is true. And I watch some of the reality shows, and they call themselves ROMs.
Well, there you
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah.
RomUrbanMusic at
Right.
gmail.com. Made sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. I know they like to wear big fat dresses for the weddings and
Hey,
stuff,
now.
but they can't get into it. Yeah, they can't get into it. Another thing I know that you do is that you do some vocal coaching.
I do. I
Yeah.
love to coach people. I am a yoga practitioner of a couple of decades, and I have found that when one approaches vocalizing from a place of listening to how comfortable your body is first, and then coming at sound from that place of the body being comfortable, as opposed to the way that we have conventionally.
Great tip. Yeah, great tip.
Which is, okay, this is how it's got to sound, and heaven help you if you don't sound great. Well, the voice is the only instrument that is not pre-tuned. So the more that the singer vocalist comes from a place of feeling safe and whole in the body and in the self-concept, suddenly you're unleashed, and you may become a megalomaniac and think you can do more than you can, but that's good.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great tip.
Yeah, and you've been
Yeah.
coaching some really interesting people lately. Can you talk about the young woman that you're working with? Just that not her name, but
Yes, I am working with an individual who is 14 years old. She has perfect pitch. She has a very precocious, developed voice. And I'm essentially helping her to understand that over singing, because she's got all of this facility and has such a tremendous musicality innate, she oversins. She'll sing till the cows come home with a beautiful vibrato and put all of these Stevie Wonder runs. And, she can do this for hours. But in music, as in most fine arts, the negative space, the space that you hold with silence, is what punctuates sound. So we're coming at her voice from a relaxed, yogic, musical approach.
Getting more balance, huh?
More balance.
Well, Lina, it has been such a joy to have you here in the studio with us.
finally, yeah.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Yeah, we want people to really get to know you because they hear the seed every time we're on, and it's just so inspiring. So thank you
I
so
want to
much.
thank you, Jean-Noel and Susan, for inviting me on this wonderful program. Both of you are so inspirational. I know your stories both personally, and keep up the good work, girl.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. We love you, Lina. So get a hold of Lina at
Urban
music at
at
gmail.com for any of your music needs. She's incredible.
So we're going to go to break now, and when we come back, we're going to have some media tips for you. If you have a book or a film or a product or service that you want to get out there and talk about, we're going to show you how we've done it. So stay tuned. This is Talk Up Your Biz on LA Talk Live, where we're more than just talk.
'Cause I have a dream. True love is evergreen. I know it's not too late. Gonna grow some love today. Planting a seed to build a world closer to heaven. Planting a seed in my soul. Yeah, I'm watching it grow.
Hi, this is Elena inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Angela DeJoseph. Join me Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific, The Angela DeJoseph Show. We're going to talk about health, wealth. We're going to share news, interviews, and entertainment. So don't forget to tune in to The Angela DeJoseph Show, Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, Radio Flag, TiVo Radio, and now live on Facebook. Watch and listen directly on latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Today is my day, a brand new beginning.
Welcome back to Talk Up Your Biz, and I'm Jean-Noel Bassior with my co-host
Susan Levin.
And we had a guest cancel this week, so we're going to kind of fill in the time. And
we're speakers.
Because, yeah, and we've both written books. And what's the name of your book, Susan?
Market Yourself as a Speaker workbook.
Mm-hmm. And so you tell me, how have you gone out and promoted that?
I market my book through the internet, and every time that I speak or teach a workshop, and I sell it in my online store, and when I'm at conferences. It's a study and resource guide that helps people, that it's a book that keeps on giving. I like to say it that way, because there's information in there that's evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
And so people tell me when they purchase the book, and you can purchase it at speakerservices.com on the online store, that they will have it in their possession for 2 or 3 years, and then they need to find a resource for something about the business of speaking. They go right to it, and it's there. And I always update it as well. But, I wanted to say that we wanted to talk about your book, which is Space Patrol. Can you hold it up so people can see it? And okay, great. Well, Space Patrol. Okay. So our question to you is, you've written a book or you have a product or service that deserves media attention, but you have little or no media experience. Where to start? So we're offering actually a teleclass on, oops, I just dropped my earbud, on June 26th. That's totally free. You all can join. Just go to speakerservices.com and look for it, or email me, Susan at speakerservices.com. But we wanted to ask Jean-Noel, when your book came out, how you publicized it and what was the process, because that's the biggest mystery for people, and then people can model after what you've done.
Right. Well, of course, when my book came out, it was a little bit before the self-published era. Well, just as it was taking off. It's actually come out a few months ago as a Kindle and a paperback, but originally it came out in 2005, and from a mainstream publisher, McFarland. And so I got what's the usual publicity package that you get from a mainstream publisher. A lot of people don't know this, but if you're with a big publisher like Simon & Schuster, or you're with a smaller publisher like McFarland, they will assign a publicist to you. And that publicist will, as I like to put it, kind of send the book to the usual suspects. That is, they'll mail a copy to the New York Times, the LA Times, to various talk shows and critics and reviewers that are on their media list. But in most cases, unless you're a major celebrity, in which case you'll get a bit of the red carpet treatment, the publicity that you get from most publishers, so I'm going to be careful not to generalize here, because of course there's always exceptions. And Hay House, for example, does a particularly good job of giving their authors other perks. They'll put you on their talk show. They actually have a show on Sirius Radio, and they'll do other things for you. But most publishers will give you this kind of untargeted publicity. So, they do their best. I mean, they've got a lot of authors to take care of. But what happens to most of us who write books is that about a month after the book has come out, you're on your own. And you really have to become your own publicist or hire someone to do it for you. So one of the first things I did was actually a fan of the book offered to set up a website.
Oh, that's right. It's a beautiful website.
Which is it's spacepatrolbook.com.
Tell people a little bit about the book before we get into what it's about, because it has a great history story.
Thank you. And this was another challenge I had, because the book, as you can see, the title is Space Patrol, which was a television show at the dawn of television in the 1950s. But the subtitle is Missions of Daring in the Name of Early Television. And so in doing...
A great example of a subtitle telling you what the book is about, which we always talk about.
Right. Yeah. And the challenge for me, of course, is to get beyond the title, Space Patrol, because the message I had to get out to people was that I was telling the story of how early television was born, because it became a story that was larger than the story of that one show. Space Patrol was actually the predecessor to Star Trek. And Gene Roddenberry was a great fan of Space Patrol. So was Leonard Nimoy. And a lot of people think that perhaps, Space Patrol was the inspiration for Star Trek. There was a very similar kind of theme. It was a band of comrades who were exploring the universe, and Commander Corey was commander-in-chief of the Space Patrol. And with his Cadet Happy, they explored the universe. But it sounds like a children's show, but in those days, the line was very thin between children and adult entertainment. And so actually, the viewership was 65% adults. They had more adult viewers than children, because the stories were really written for adults and they were more sophisticated. So it was not a kiddie show. And that's another challenge that I had to face. The people who created Space Patrol were all real pros. Dick Darley went on to be the first director of the Mickey Mouse Club, and he directed Lassie and a lot of classics, Highway Patrol. And Norm Jolley who was the writer, the television writer, wrote Wagon Train and Highway Patrol and a lot of other shows like that, Barnaby Jones, Cimarron City. So you had a bunch of people who were just starting out in television, but who later became quite successful. And the challenge with Space Patrol, which was a live show, was to create live special effects.
Right.
And
there were a lot of mishaps, right?
A lot of mishaps that happened on the set. And a lot of actors got their start on Space Patrol, like Lee Van Cleef and many others like that. And they, a lot of times, would panic. Gene Barry was another one. They would panic. They would go up on their lines, totally forget them. And the Space Patrol cast had to memorize everybody else's line.
Oh, they did. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and fill in for them.
Wow.
In fact, there was one actor who forgot his lines. He played the villain, and he forgot his lines at the beginning of the show. And so what they had to do was they made him into a telepathist. So these were the crazy early days of live TV.
But the thing is that, that you, out of your challenges came story angles, so that when you approached some
Right.
radio or TV shows, and I think it was mostly radio for you at the time,
Yeah.
that you had those story angles to go with, so they had a choice.
Right.
So how do you go about that? Because that's one of the questions we always get asked, is how to
Right.
get booked on talk shows
Right.
and give a great interview and get invited back.
Right. Well, I saw several story angles here because what I did to write the book was interview a lot of these guys who had created live television, and a lot of them were in their 80s. And I found out that most of them had been World War II vets. And so it became a story about these guys who came back from the war. And one of them said, I couldn't find anything as exciting as flying off landing, taking off landing carriers in the Pacific and landing as the excitement in a live radio, in a live TV station. And so, a live TV to a great extent was a lot of these World War II guys inventing television, and they had no idea what they were doing.
Right.
The only people who really knew what they were doing came from Paramount and the movie studios. But that was a totally different experience, because this was not like, live television was not like doing a lot of takes for movies. I mean, this was doing it on the spot. So that was one angle. And then another was connecting with childhood heroes.
Right.
Because as I interviewed people decades later who had been great Space Patrol fans, they still remembered being inspired by Commander Corey and the Major Robertson and Cadet Happy and the characters of Space Patrol. And they actually had two wonderful women role models, Carol and Tonga, who were way, way, way ahead of their time. They flew spaceships. They were brilliant research scientists. I mean, this was not the Donna Reed of the 1950s.
Right.
So the show was very progressive in many ways. That was another story angle of, are you still connected with your childhood heroes, and why? And that was also a time when television was inspiring, when heroes really were heroes. And we're not sort of in this gray area with a lot of flaws. They were black and white heroes, but that didn't mean that it was, there was no depth.
So how did you get onto the radio shows that you wanted to get onto, and which ones were they?
Well, I got onto a lot of shows. Actually, one thing I did was create a one-page summary of my book, which looked like this. And of course, my publisher had a one sheet, which was put out by the publisher, which had a photograph of the book cover on the top of the page, and then it showed bookstores how to order on the bottom. And but I reached out to radio stations by myself.
Right.
And I called them up, and I did a short query in a couple of sentences, saying why I thought my book would be good for their listeners, hitting one of these story angles, and that was one thing that I did, and I got some bites.
Yeah, you did. You were on a very good show called Coast to Coast.
Yeah,
but a lot of people
yeah.
like to get on to
Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Yes,
Yeah.
I was on that.
a couple times.
No, once. I
One
was on
time?
that once. Yeah.
And then I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And then you went out and you've spoken about it,
Mhm.
about your book, to several different organizations
Right.
and groups.
And there was a lot of other radio opportunities. There were Fox News affiliates. There
Okay.
were I knew some people in the industry because I'm a journalist who had interviewed celebrities. So I had some people who knew other people who had radio shows, but it's really not about who you know. I actually found out what kind of radio shows deal in old time radio, nostalgia.
Oh, see, that's important. That's part of the research that we teach people to use.
Know
that's
your
really
genre.
good.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing interviews about your book, you have to prepare. And I found that a lot of times, when you've written a book, sometimes you forget some of the facts, the exact dates. You can't really always keep all of that in your mind, especially if you've written a book with a historical angle. And so some listener might call up to a talk show and say, what year did something happen? So I tried to be prepared when I went on shows, and I had a fact sheet, and I like to color code things. So my facts from the book were in blue, if you can see that. And then I had quotes from the book. I had my favorite quotes. One of them was, as I interviewed fans across the country and said, why do you still like these shows that you grew up with? One guy said to me, I wonder if 40 years from now, the kids of today will think fondly of their violent video games and electronic mass killings.
Wow.
And that for me, kind of wrapped up in a nutshell, the inspiration that the early television heroes gave us. So I had the quotes from the book on a yellow sheet.
Great tips so far. We're getting more.
And then I had the points that I wanted to make, the story of the book, how I wrote it, things about the actors in the show, things I found fascinating about early television. And by the way, Space Patrol was filmed at ABC. And so I interviewed a lot of those guys who did a lot of shows besides Space Patrol. So that's how it kind of turned into a lot of information about early television and the personal stories of these guys, which had not been really told before. So the points I put on pink, that was points I wanted to make. And so that was just my personal way of organizing. And then, of course, I like to boil things down into one short form, so that was my short form. I knew that with just that, if I forgot all the others, I could go in and do any interview. So we all have our personal systems, our personal way.
This is really excellent. And so, a lot of people ask us, how could they be on this show?
Right.
Or the Book Beat, which is coming up after this show today. And we always have to ask them questions to make sure that they qualify, that they know that they're going to be a good guest, because we want to be able to interview them and give them the best interview that they could possibly get. And if they don't have what we need, then we say to them, let's spend some time with you and help you to coach you so that you can get this. So we want you to know that we offer that. But then I want to also mention one more time that we are offering a free teleclass through Speaker Services on June 26th called Take Your Message to the Media, where we're going to be answering a lot of questions. And you can find it on my website at speakerservices.com. If you're not sure how to find it, email me, Susan@speakerservices.com. And if you want to get a hold of Jean-Noel, because she's so brilliant, and talk to her about her book or about her media coaching or anything else around that, how do they get a hold of you?
It's my name without a hyphen, so it's Jean-Noel at earthlink.net, and that's spelled JeanNoel at earthlink.net. And what we do with our coaching is we try to help you find your story angles, focus for the media, so you make sure that you're speaking to the target audience that you want to reach, and help you with all kinds of things like that.
Yeah, and people always ask, should I have a press release? That's another question that comes up.
Or a one sheet.
Or a one sheet, which I think is valuable, but you have to know what all the other stuff what you're speaking about. And you really did a brilliant job of the color coding and breaking it down, because people do get afraid that they're not going to remember.
Well, that's
and
what
there's
made it
nothing
feel
wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at us. We're sitting here with our notes too.
Yeah.
We can't remember everything,
Yeah.
so we glance at them, and that's okay. This
Yeah.
is reality TV. It's all right.
And especially if you're doing radio. I mean, I was doing that
Radio
because,
too,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know
That's
if I would
true.
take these on a TV set with me. I'd probably take my shorter one, but yeah, it is to get whatever works for you, and that's what worked for me.
Right. So we hope you'll join us for the free complimentary teleclass, take your message to the media. And then you'll be able to ask us questions on the call. It's an hour long. And once you sign up, you get the phone number to call in, and it will be Jean-Noel and me on a Wednesday, June 26th.
And we may even do some live coaching there.
We would be happy to do live coaching if you call in. Yeah. So it seems like we're coming to the end of our conversation here. And we want to thank our guest, Lina Marquez. And next week we have Walter and Janet Jackson. And Walter is a popular speaker and former athletic star who tells you how to overcome devastating obstacles and triumph over any setback by sporting the right attitude. And
we're also going to have Tom Sockwell with us. And Tom is an inspirational speaker, and I guarantee you he will inspire you to follow your dream, because Susan and I have worked with him, and this guy is really phenomenal. So.
And who's going to be on the Book Beat next?
Good question. It's Rachel. It's our first guest. Yeah, Rachel Carew, and
Tom Quinn,
and Thomas Quinn. And our first guest, our expert guest, is Amanda Johnson.
So stay tuned, because that's coming up in a half hour at 6:30. But we thank you for joining us today. It was a delight, and we'll see you again next week on the 27th on Memorial Day here in the States. Have a good evening.
Ready to change the world that I see, 'cause I have a dream, true love is evergreen, I know it's not too late, gonna grow some love today, planting a seed to build a world closer to heaven.
You are now tuned into LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.